It was a relatively quiet offseason for NC State football, but who might you project to be the biggest impact transfer?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, it was a pretty quiet offseason for NC State football. They didn't have to do a ton of work in the transfer portal. And any work they did do was primarily on the defensive side of the ball. They picked up some help on the offensive line. Coach Dorn closed the media out of their spring practice, and that was a big reason why things have been so quiet. But now as you're getting in here to the summer, college football talks are starting to ramp up. Now that the college basketball offseason is kind of transitioning into their own summer mode. So here on Friday, we're talking NC State football. In just a second, we're going to touch on an article from CBS Sports. They listed their predicted top impact transfer for each of the ACC schools. But before we get into that name, Kenton, who would you project to be the biggest impact transfer for NC State football?
You know, I was torn. I was torn between two guys here because they were both spots of great need. They both came in and are filling spots of great need. And both of these guys have shown that they have the ability to go and they have the ability to do it at a high level. So I'm going to go with the side of the ball where I felt like not only is the need the biggest individually, but as a unit, the need was the biggest. I'm going to go with defense, which is obviously going to lead me to Mr. Jeremiah Johnson. I don't think that there is, a ton of dispute or debate there because this young man is probably the only truly proven product that we have bought in on the defensive side, outside of the cornerback from North Texas, who I think is going to be phenomenal for us as well. I think that Jeremiah Johnson is, again, he's the one that's shown. He's the one that's shown and proven the most. But that is with all due respect to all these other players. I would not be surprised in any way, shape, form, or fashion who the young man whose name is eluding me right now, but the cornerback from North Texas turned out to be it. But those two, I think, bolster our secondary in a very meaningful way that was definitely needed after an 11th hour, basically exodus of our defensive back room at 11:59 into the winter portal.
Brian Nelson is the corner from North Texas. Yeah. It's a good answer, too. It's a good answer. It's a position of need. My answer, and we've talked about him, I think, a couple times on here, I'm going to stick with Cody Hardy. He's the tight end that came over from Elon. Now, again, the offense is not what we needed to have the majority of the focus on. We all understand that. You bring back CJ Bailey, you bring back all your offensive weapons. You pick up some offensive linemen, and that was certainly a need as well. But the defense is very clearly where you had to put your hand in the dirt, get aggressive, and go find what you need to stack on and hopefully let DJ Elliott get to work. But I keep coming back to Cody Hardy. I've heard some things, and the staff is very high on Cody Hardy and what he provides in the run blocking game, but also his ability to be a threat as a pass catcher as well. And when you have Cody Hardy being a threat downfield, that also opens up more opportunities for guys like Noah Rogers, Justin Jolie, the list goes on. So I think Cody Hardy's going to wind up being one of the most impactful transfers. But Kenton, your answer was actually what CBS Sports went with. Jeremiah Johnson is a safety joining us from Georgia State, and he is, according to CBS Sports, the most impactful transfer this season for NC State. They said, and I quote, NC State lost two projected starting safeties to the transfer portal and another veteran in DK Kaufman. That means Johnson, a two-time All-Sun Belt selection at Georgia State, should transition into a starting role seamlessly. And I'd certainly be hard-pressed to disagree with something like that because the way that we did have that last, 11:59 p.m. exodus of our DB room left us with the cupboards barren at a very vulnerable time in terms of the transfer portal deadline. And so NC State had to go out and find not just a safety or two, cornerbacks that could play from day one. Jeremiah Johnson from Georgia State was one of their best defenders for the Panthers. Kind of interesting that he has 0 recorded interceptions in 3 years, but sometimes that's the way the ball bounces. And you certainly need his type of veteran leadership to ensure that the secondary is not a train wreck.
You're absolutely right about him, but I think when you look at the ball hawking ability, I think that's what Nelson from North Texas brings you, right?
Correct.
As a young man, he had 4 or 5 interceptions last year. He is the ball hawk supreme of that group in terms of the transfers in. But more than anything else, the reason that I say Johnson is the reality is what I see out of our front seven in terms of depth and talent. Your safety is your last line of defense. Your safety is the person that cleans everything up. Long story short, whenever something gets past those front seven, it's more often than not your safety that keeps it at a 5-yard gain or a 6 or 7 yard gain instead of a 20 or 30, not your corner. And that's why I would say, hey, I believe that this front seven can do special things. I believe that they can, at max potential, do that. I'm not betting on max potential. I never bet on, hey, if everything goes perfectly, if everything goes right, we don't have any injuries, nothing. We did that last year. We played that game last year. If everything goes right, we don't have any injuries, everything is fine here, we'll be fine. It doesn't work out well. It doesn't work out. And even if we talk about the games where we were absolutely decimated and dominated, our, defense held up for a lot of it. But at some point in time, the pipes are always going, at some point in time, there's only so many productive snaps you can play because they got scholarship guys too, and they'll figure it out. So I would say really and truly, I look at these guys defensively and I say, hey, they have the talent and potential. But again, with what I'm looking at right now in terms of what I have seen, what is the proven product, you're going to need a safety that can make those tackles. I'm not even as concerned about, hey, you've got to take the ball away. What are your interception numbers looking like? No. Can you be an elder statesman that holds this thing together? Can you be the type of guy that is, in a way, the quarterback of the secondary and kind of, getting everybody to where they need to go, making sure calls are properly communicated? And I think that Mr. Johnson can do that.
I don't think we need somebody that's making superhuman plays back in the secondary. Like, we're not necessarily looking for Ed Reed back there. I mean, it'd be great if he was.
It'd be nice.
We need a player that makes the right play, a good play that keeps the play in front of him. That's all we really need, because you hope that the rest of the guys around him can also do their job and the defense can be effective enough. You mentioned injuries, because I think it's interesting. My answer would have been the linebacker from Alabama. That's Sterling Dixon. Now, he has been injured at some point during the spring, and of course, we don't know the extent of that injury. It seems pretty serious based on NC State continuing to seek out linebackers as that portal deadline continued to approach. So that's a tough pill to swallow, but I think Sterling Dixon would have been a very easy answer, a linebacker coming from Alabama. I've said this once, and I'll say it probably a million more times. If Nick Saban trusted this kid and wanted him on his team in Alabama, who are we to disagree with him coming to NC State here? But won't do us a whole lot of good if he is injured. The linebacker room is still going to be a big question mark in the air as we get closer to fall kickoff. But I don't disagree at all that Jeremiah Johnson might just be the biggest impact transfer on the team. Coming up next, we're getting into Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Friday sponsor is FanDuel. The NBA Finals are now here, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even playing live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans now have more ways than ever before to play smart and win big. Who's going to take the Commissioner's Trophy home? Will it be the Oklahoma City Thunder, or will it be the Indiana Pacers? If you have that team in mind, head over to FanDuel and make sure you make it count. If you're new to FanDuel, now's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll receive $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Yes, that's right. Just your first $5 bet. If it wins, of course, you'll get $200 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Middle portion of our Friday show. Now time for Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Here we go. First one comes from Hudson. They say, love the addition of Ven-Allen Lubin. However, do have some concerns on him being our starting five. Being 6'8" isn't ideal for a power forward center, That being said, do you think Mbia starts at 5 and Lubin slides down to the 4? Would love to see the two on the court at the same time. So I know about all the chatter about Paul Mbia that's been going on this week. I'm just going to let it play out however it does. Don't want to speculate any further than what's been going on anyway. So what I will say is the intent on getting Ven-Allen Lubin to come to NC State is very important. The intent was to bring him to NC State to play the center position at the very least for the early stages of the season. We've said this earlier when we were talking about Paul Mbia committing to NC State and how the level of competition that he faced in France would compare potentially to the ACC. I am of the opinion that it might take a little bit for Paul Mbia to adjust and set into playing P4 basketball in the United States. And I'd have to imagine that the level of competition in the ACC is possibly better than what you'd see in a U21 league in France. Now, I don't know that to say for sure, but I do believe that D1 college basketball is some of the best basketball in that age frame that you can play in the world. So I think there would be a little bit of an adjustment period for Paul Mbia. And so that's why you bring in a guy like Ven-Allen Lubin, who already has 3 years of experience in doing so. 2 of those years are in the ACC because he spent 1 year with Notre Dame and obviously spent last year with the Dirty Foot Club. So Ven-Allen Lubin is a great addition on more levels than just one. It's not just a rivalry win, but we had to have him to ensure this roster has what they need to get off the ground in the early stages of the season.
Let me tell you all something very interesting about height and how it works. Duke last year was the tallest team in the nation, right? They had a center by the name of Kaman Malawach, 7'1", a standing wingspan, or a wingspan rather, of like 7'8" or something crazy like that. He played up against a young man by the name of Juwan Roberts from Houston in the Final Four. Juwan Roberts out-rebounded him 12 or 11 to none in that game. With all due respect, I would like bigger players too. I would like taller, longer players too. If you give me a 6'8" dog, I'll take him over a 7-foot guy that's got a lot of cat in him any day of the week, okay? I would take that guy any day of the week. And Ven-Allen Lubin, love him or hate him, for better or worse, he's got some dog in him. He's got that fight in him in the post. He's got that ability to make things happen and get mucky and get messy and get physical under there. So do I love having a 6'8" center? I would not beg for that. That's not something I would say, please never give us a center taller than 6'8" again. No, I wouldn't do that. But if it's a 6'8" guy with some dog in him, I'll take it. I'll take it. You know, at the end of the day, I'll definitely take it. And a 6'8" guy with some dog in him that knows his role, not going to be taking ill-advised shots, not going to think to himself, I need to drift out around the three-point line. That's the type of guy I think you can win with every day of the week.
To Kenton's point, is a 6'8" center ideal? Not exactly, but that's not everything. That doesn't mean he'll be entirely ineffective. In fact, you just saw that wasn't true, as he was the Dirty Foot Club's possibly most effective player for the last third of their season. So height in this situation is not everything. You can control his effort that he brings to the table, and it is surely a ton of effort. So I think Ven-Allen Lubin was a great addition for more reasons than just one, and potentially it'll help Paul Mbia get better once he does arrive here. Second one comes from Toast 803. They say it's becoming obvious it's not just NC State fans that want Will Wade to succeed. Almost like some teams out there have worn out their welcome nationally and people long for the red and white. So this comment actually connects to the comment last week from Toast 803, essentially alluding to the fact that it seems the ACC is trying to prop up the other schools in the conference, like NC State, like Virginia Tech, like Georgia Tech. Not so much the Clemsons and the Louisvilles and the Miamis and the Florida States. Now, why might that be? It's possibly because the ACC is reading the writing on the wall, and that to potentially survive a couple years down the road, they need a stronger conference in totality. And so it makes a lot of sense to try and ensure that all of your members can hopefully get to the same level as the ones you perceive to be the top ones. Now, something else I've noticed actually in this last week since Toast made that original post, the ACC's been tweeting a lot of NC State stuff, and it's kind of random. Like just the other day, I saw a video of Ricky Person running in a touchdown against Louisiana Tech from 4 years ago. And it's not like that tweet was just stuck in their drafts and something went wrong and it got out on the internet. They intentionally posted a tweet of Ricky Person from 4 years ago. That almost confirmed to me what Toast was alluding to, in that I do think the ACC is trying to make a better effort to prop up all of the other member institutions. I also saw the video of the Hurricane game against Notre Dame. That made its round on the internet all week long. There's something to this. I think Toast is hitting the nail on the head. It almost seems that the ACC and potentially the rest of the country is now more interested in NC State than they have been before.
What a poetic way to put it. The people long for the red and white. What a poetic, what a beautifully worded way to put it. But I don't care if they long for it, they yearn for it, they pray for it, they wish for it, they want it. It doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is the young men and women who are in the Dale Center day in and day out. Do they want it? Do they want it? How bad does Will Wade want to make this happen? How bad does every player from one through the trainers want this to happen? How bad is that the goal? How bad is everybody saying, hey, we want to win and we want to succeed? Because at the end of the day, I have always told people the national love and spotlight, don't care for it. People liking you, people thinking that you're, people talking you up, don't care for it. Go out there and make it happen. That's, at the end of the day, fans are fickle. The nation is fickle. The same way that we were America's team a couple years ago, all it'll take is a couple runs back to back. All it'll take is a few years straight of NC State being there before someone starts asking, why are they always here? What's going on in Raleigh? What are they doing? When you're no longer the lovable loser, people will start to look at you and say, oh, what's going on? Right now, we're just potentially exiting that territory. So, it's nice to have people nationally wanting us to succeed. I don't count on people nationally. I'm a big, when I was a kid, I used to wear a clothing line called FUBU a lot. But now that I'm an adult, I learned a phrase called FIBU. And it stands for forget everybody but us. Forget is the way of saying it that helps us keep our clean rating, So I'm not saying I would wear a knockoff FUBU jersey, but if somebody wanted to get me a FUBU jersey with an E over where the first U is, I would not be upset at all.
I remember weeks ago when Will Wade was hired in NC State, and Jeff Goodman on the Field of 68 podcast saying that fan base, NC State's fan base, and Will Wade is like a match made in heaven. When you see national pundits start talking about NC State more regularly in the news cycle, because that's certainly happened in the last couple of weeks as well, Will Wade seemingly every week is popping up on another podcast. I just watched him the other night on the Aaron Torres podcast. Excellent listen. If you have not, go ahead and listen to that one. But Jeff Goodman is speaking the absolute truth. He, because of all the other run-ins he's had with our fan base, he knows that we're a rabid bunch. We have waited for decades for our moment in the sun to prove that we can play and succeed in the triangle. We can play and succeed in the ACC. And we have waited very patiently for a coach like this to come along and wake everything up. Wake the fan base up, wake the finances up, wake the facilities up, the administration, everything. And now that he's here, you're going to see NC State in the media a lot. And we're going to close the show talking about Amir Khan, but even that is related. Even though it feels kind of irrelevant and out of the way, it is connected to the idea. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, people do want to know what Will Wade will do now that he's back at the P4, P5 level. We all know that he got fired from LSU. He was just a little bit early in the NIL dealings. He got fired. He paid his punishment. And now he's ready to return. You're getting the perfect rowdy fan base in NC State. You're getting the perfect rowdy coach in Will Wade. They're meeting in the middle, and that's why he told us all that this could be a reckoning for the ACC to deal with. That's what he's talking about. Everyone knows how powerful of a force that NC State can be when all things are clicking on all cylinders. The nation got a taste of that when we miraculously went to the Final Four. You heard Wolfpack over the national anthem all the way out in Arizona. And it still gives me goosebumps to this day thinking about it. To Kenton's point, imagine if that's on a regular basis. Imagine if NC State's taken over the Final Four every year. And those other three schools, they have to witness us screaming Wolfpack at the top of our lungs right in the middle of the anthem every single time. NC State is ready for this moment. Will Wade is ready for this moment. And to Toast's point, it's not just us that want to see NC State and Will Wade succeed. You're absolutely right. Last one comes from Billy Moss. They say, although I am disappointed on how the baseball season ended, I am proud of the program that Avent has built. It's hard to compete with some of the SEC teams that pour in millions of dollars in their teams, but the Wolfpack seems to do it. We have some talented young players coming back, and I am optimistic about next year. So this comment, I think, got even more interesting after some additional players entered the portal on Thursday. And I'm here to tell you, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not a nuclear meltdown. We are going to be able to field a team next year. All the talent is not gone. We said this earlier talking about something else. I can't remember what it was in particular, but this happens every season, every team, every sport, every position. Kids are going to transfer. Kids are going to seek other opportunities. It does not mean there's a culture problem. It doesn't mean we have zero money at all. It doesn't mean anything bigger than sometimes the kid's just looking for a better opportunity. Now, Ryder Woodson entering the portal, that stings because we just literally just talked about how we thought he could be the starting third baseman next year. I guess that won't be the case. D-Rock entering the portal. That stings because we all fell in love with him last season and only saw, I think it was like 6 innings of him this year. So that's bittersweet to see him go. But NC State is going to be fine. Have they not been delivering in who they picked up in the portal these last couple of years? Elliott Avent every single year, despite having financial reasons stacked against him and the SEC stacked against him, he still finds a way to have his teams in postseason contention every year. You can count on it. I think it's like 22 of his 29 years here, NC State has made the postseason. 3 trips to Omaha in the last 12 years. All things considered, that's rare air when you're looking at how often teams do get there outside of like the Arkansas and the teams that seemingly go every year. It's not common occurrence for a school to go 3 different times over the span of 12 years. And so despite how frustrating the end of the season was, and it was most certainly frustrating because certainly felt like they had a lot more on the table that they could have played for, this program is a consistent program, and each and every year you can expect that they will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's disheartening to see so many guys leaving all at once, but that's kind of the nature of the end of the season here. It's the nature of ball and all that. And you're absolutely right. A lot of those SEC teams, you can't. At the end of the day, the money is the money, and as much as we would like to pretend like, oh, all of these teams and championships are built through playing for pride of dear old state and all that, it is just like any other company, any other job, right? If you want top talent, you've got to pay top dollar. At the moment, top dollar is not necessarily into baseball like that. And I will say this about baseball more so than any other sport. I can give them the grace of this is still a team that, like Grayson said, competes at that level. In football, when we played Tennessee, it looked like that team had spent as much on their quarterback as we did on one side of the ball, basically. It looked like it. It did. This was not the case by and large for most of the season for Elliott Avent. There were moments when we started the season off, when we went to that one tournament, I can't remember where it was, but we got smacked around. We did not look like a serious outfit at that time. We come into one of the toughest conferences in baseball in the ACC and have what is, ascending. You go ahead and sweep a Clemson team that had not lost a series at all up to that point. Elliott Avent has given reason for optimism. So I understand where you're coming from, Billy Moss.
Your football comparison was actually spot on. That was a great example. When you do think about NC State playing Tennessee in Charlotte, the NIL gap between those two schools is drastic, and it showed on the field. A 41-point loss for NC State. But if NC State plays an SEC school in baseball, you can't always tell the difference. Like, for example, when we beat Arkansas on the road in that super regional, Arkansas was the best team in the country. Their head coach is one of the best coaches in the country, and that roster was absolutely stacked with major league talent. But Avent took his bunch on the road against the number 1 team in the country and beat them in the super regional to get to Omaha. I think moments like those kind of get swept under the rug sometimes, unfortunately, or even like Georgia last year in the Super Regional. That team was one of the better offensive teams in the entire country. SEC talent is real. SEC money is real. Elliott Avent doesn't care. Goes on the road and wins another Super Regional in an SEC environment. The way that his teams have competed against the SEC monsters is such an indication of how successful his programs truly are. Or even like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has some of the top talent in the country each and every year. Beat them once with Jack Leiter on the mound in Omaha, nearly beat them a second time in Omaha. We had basically two hands tied behind our back. Only 13 players were able to play. Almost beat Kumar Rocker. That is how competitive NC State baseball has become under Avent. And I think it severely gets understated how impressive some of that has been. Everyone wants to talk about hardware. I get it. He's still empty-handed, and that is truly inexplicable at this point. 29 years, it still has not won the ACC. And as we've also said, the sun, it's getting low. We're reaching midnight here. We might be looking at next year as the last, because I think the Doak renovations are a severe key in the timeline you're looking at. And if those renovations finally finish next year, because they are severely behind schedule, I won't exactly be surprised if Avent chooses that moment to secure his legacy as the head coach of NC State. And coming up next, we're going to round out our Friday show talking about Amir Khan, the aura, officially coming to NC State. What does that really mean for the Wolfpack? More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Friday show. We'll keep this one brief because, I don't want to sound disrespectful. It's not a major news story. It doesn't have extreme relevance to NC State basketball, but I saw that Reed, the social media guy for Will Wade, he had tweeted the edited picture of Amir in the yellow tracksuit, but made it red. It said aura on the back. He had the little train emoji as he's been tweeting each signee with NC State throughout the whole process, which, if you read between the lines, would tell me that Amir is coming to NC State. He will be a student manager along with Will Wade. Some people kind of get up in arms about, this is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I don't disagree with that, but here's why it does matter. Because the media loves the kid. They want to follow him wherever he goes. They want him to speak. They want to know what he thinks. They want to know what he does on a daily basis. And that is more attention for NC State. The TST tournament, I don't even know what that is. I think it's a soccer tournament. It's currently going on in Cary. Some team, one of the teams in that tournament, has Amir walking them out with the Why Not Us NC State boombox. You are exposing NC State basketball to people that probably have no idea. They're not even following anything. But all of a sudden, who's this kid with glasses walking out with an NC State boombox for, I don't know, is it an intramural? I don't know what it is. It's some kind of soccer tournament. That stuff, you might not think it matters, but it does. It's the eyeballs. It's the good vibes. It's the positive buzz. If the team loves having him around, if the coaching staff loves having him around, if Will Wade loves having him around, why would anyone not want that to happen? There is literally zero downside to it. He's going to be a student manager. Will Wade trusts him to be on the staff as he was with him the last 2 years of McNeese, and the media loves him. That's three things that all work in NC State's favor. Believe it or not, this is a good thing.
No, I'm going to say it like this, okay? When people talk about Amir Khan and what he is or what he isn't and all that good stuff, I'll tell you this much. Look at how the players react to him.
Exactly.
Look how the players in McNeese reacted to him. Everybody in your corner doesn't need to be technical, doesn't need to be X's and O's, doesn't need to be performance, doesn't need to be, hey, this is their chaplain and they'll get you right spiritually. This is your head strength conditioning coach, they'll get you right physically. This is your sports psychologist. They'll get you. Sometimes, for those of you who aren't aware of who this man is, go watch the movie Ali with Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali. Sometimes you just need a Houdini Brown. Sometimes you need a guy that, it's not as important that you do the little details of the thing. That was Jamie Foxx's character in Ali. It's not as important that you do the fine details of something really big. Sometimes you just need somebody to rub your shoulder and say, you the champ, baby. You got it. I know you. You've been doing this. We've done all this training. We've done all this work. You're here. It's time now. And maybe that's what Amir Khan does. Maybe walking out with the boombox, playing the boss man D-Lo is that version, is the 2025 version of writing out, some of Muhammad Ali's, I'm so bad I cuffed thunder and throwed lightning in jail. Maybe that's the 2025 version of that, and that's okay. Again, everything does not have to be in a way that is like, this matters for this reason, and this is why it's important. Sometimes it's just like, it feels good to feel good, and you keep people around that keep you feeling good, and that's all there is to it, which is what I believe this move is.
That's literally it. Like, it doesn't have to be more complicated than it is. If the team wants him around, then I too want him around the team. There's no downside. There's no negative. There's no cons. There's only pros. Amir Khan, welcome to Raleigh. Welcome to the Wolfpack. We got that aura now around NC State basketball. That will do it for us here on Friday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Give us your thoughts on potentially the most impactful transfer for NC State football this fall. Give us your thoughts on Will Wade, additionally, with the addition of Ven-Allen Lubin. With Amir Khan joining the student manager staff, he will be in Raleigh providing more eyeballs and buzz for NC State basketball. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the comment box as well. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll catch you back here on Monday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.